Good evening, everyone. I know you're all excited about this wonderful evening that we're having. One of the last wonderful evenings. I think between you and I, we can call it summer, okay? We'll call it summer for tonight. At any rate, I'm Sherry Borez. I'm the executive director of AVA, and it's really wonderful to see all of you here. I'm going to take off my hat now that you all know who I am. Oops. So tonight's evening, as you probably know, is the first time. And I am like very, very curious to see what will come out of our storytellers' mouths. I also want to thank all of our storytellers, the Mudroom committee, AVA staff and volunteers, and especially to Rich Federchak, who is one of our best volunteers and has been a staunch Mudroom volunteer for years. Oh, he's way back there and he didn't hear it. So let's do it again. Thank you, Rich. Okay. As AVA enters its 50th year, it bears on reflecting that it was founded and developed by passionate artists. The seeds were planted, and here we are able to see what has bloomed. Yes, I don't know if you noticed, but our building is being painted for the first time in 15 years. And we're getting ready to celebrate our 50th anniversary big time. So we are now a robust, unique organization that is one of a few places in New Hampshire available to present thought-provoking work, both visual and verbal. 2023 is going to be a very exciting time for us as we celebrate our 50th year. There are several ways you can take part in it and help support AVA in celebrating it. Obviously, you can donate to our fundraising efforts. You can become a member if you're not already. You can take classes, which we offer daytime and evening. We even have workshops on the weekends. You can join us in all of the special events, including events like tonight and our openings. And don't forget to, if you're not already getting it, to subscribe to our e-newsletter. It comes out every Thursday morning, and it is the place to find out what's happening. And last but not least, our AVA's galleries, which are always free and open to the public. We're open Tuesday through Saturday, 11 to 5 o'clock. So, looking for something to do on a rainy day, looking to do something with some out-of-town guests, looking to just come here to take in some beautiful art, please don't forget that we're here for you. So come often. I hope you're enjoying seeing your friends tonight. And I know you're going to enjoy the talented storytellers that we have coming up here. So let's get the show going. I'd like to introduce Sally Bacon.
Hi, everyone. I love the Mudroom. But before we get started, I want to thank Pon for they are amazing. The food is great. The price is right. So if you didn't buy dinner this time, please save it for, next time. I mean, come hungry because they really feed you. So I do love the Mudroom. This is like so exciting. And first times, we all have first time stories. So our first storyteller is Kristen Coates, and Kristen is married to Paul, who's also a storyteller. And she lives in Lebanon, and she loves to encourage people through her art, one-on-one chats, and her active lifestyle. Let's see Kristen, wherever you are. Come on up. Yay!
Well, aren't you a lovely audience? So I am in a small room in 2016. It's December, and I'm walking through a hallway, and I enter the room, and I sit down in a cold plastic chair. I am surrounded by 4 Thai aunties because I'm in Bangkok, Thailand. They each have a small fine-tooth comb in their hand, and one of the Thai aunties has a bottle of olive oil. I look over across this small room to my mother-in-law and I say, "How do you say the word ouch in Thai?" Now I have to back up 3 weeks prior to this place where I found myself in. 3 weeks prior, I'm in my house in Lebanon. I'm married to Paul. We've been married about a year. And I am in our guest room with an open suitcase and a ton of clothing strewn throughout the room. And my lovely husband, Paul, is taking me on a trip to visit his extended family in Thailand. So as you can imagine, this is quite an exhilarating opportunity, only being married for a year. And I'm super excited. I'm excited to travel. I'm excited to meet these new relatives. But at the same time, I have to admit, there's a little bit of trepidation and fear and anxiety to meet my mother-in-law's entire family from Thailand. So whenever I'm a little anxious, I tend to combat that with planning. So I am planning the perfect wardrobe because I am of Irish descent. So we Irish don't do heat and we don't do humidity. So I know that I need like the lightest skirts, that wicking technology top, and I am laying it all out. Now, the other piece that I know I need to learn, because I have been to Thailand once before, is that there are formalities in how we greet each other. So I'm practicing what they call the Thai Y, W-A-I, and I'm practicing my bow and how I tonally say hello in Thai. I'm also learning the names of my relatives, my new relatives whom I've never met, and their names are long and lovely. But I have this little cheat sheet where I've phonetically spelled them out, and I've assigned like Uncle Chuchip, he's married to Aunt Paria or Aunt Plumchit. So, I'm getting my whole spiel. My wardrobe is dialed in. My Thai Y is going for me. And I've got all the names of my future new relatives in my back pocket. So we land in Thailand. We take a couple days to kind of, get our feet on the ground, deal with the jet lag. And so it's a beautiful morning in Thailand, and some of the family has gathered around the breakfast table. And my very gentle, kind Uncle Prita comes up to Paul and I, and he has in his hands 2 yellow polo shirts. And I'm thinking to myself, surely he does not expect me to be wearing a 100% cotton polo shirt in Thailand. Plus, he doesn't know about my whole wardrobe selection that I've been planning for the past 2 weeks before we arrived. So I find out very quickly that he is very serious, that we are going to wear these yellow polo shirts. And the reason being is we have arrived in the year of the king's 80th birthday. We have also arrived in the year of the king's 60th year of reigning on the monarchy. So this is a very special event for the Thai people. And so in honor of that, they wear yellow polo shirts everywhere. It's like a sea of yellow in the city of Bangkok. So I am in denial, and I'm thinking, there is no way that I am wearing a 100% cotton, thick yellow polo shirt. So I have this little trick up my sleeve. I'm like, okay, Uncle Prita, you can have your little way, but I have this trick. And I have planned to put on my very light, airy, wicking shirt underneath the very thick 100% cotton yellow polo shirt. And when we are out and about in the city of Bangkok and Uncle Prita is like gazing at the reclining Buddha, I am going to very quickly disrobe of my yellow polo shirt and have my nice wicking breezy shirt on. But very quickly, I find out that this does not happen with Uncle Prita. And so I'm not only, super hot from the Thai heat and humidity, I also have a shirt under a shirt, which is not a good plan ever. And then I also, at this time in my life, and I think everyone has one, I have dreadlocks. And I have found out over the past several nights that, like, as I shower, my hair is not drying well. No one in the household has a hairdryer. And so I find that my hair is constantly moist and like clammy. And it also has this very musty odor. And I am just like, whoa, this is not working for me at all. So the next day, Paul and I are in the city again, and we're roaming around. And I see this Westerner getting his dreadlocks like tightened, which is a thing. And they take like this needle and they just kind of, it's like a sewing machine, and they just go all over your head. And I'm thinking this is a great idea because in the back of my mind, I'm like, I think I heard if you groom your dreadlocks, then your scalp has this natural cleansing. And I was like, I don't know. I just need to do something because it was so itchy and uncomfortable. So I sit down in the man's chair and he's like, dun, 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 dun. And it's 2.5 hours. And I'm not kidding you. It is like he peeled my scalp back, put gasoline on it, and lit it on fire. And I am just like, but I'm like, okay, it doesn't itch anymore. You know, like this, I guess this is good. So the outcome of this, and I wish I had a photo because you're not going to believe it, but literally my dreads were standing straight up. I was like a chia pet. I'm not kidding you. It was like, boom. And it hurt so much. It hurt so much that like I bumped one on accident and I was like, oh, just this outrageous pain pulsating through my entire body. So we leave and I'm like, well, that was wonderful. That didn't work. So, 2 days go by. I'm still not sleeping. I'm sleeping on my face because if I try to sleep on my pillow, it's just too painful. So a couple days go by and I wake up and, I'm tired, but I'm really tired. And there's something different about this. Like there's something different. It's not just my head pain. There's something wrong with me. So I'm weak and I'm tired and I'm lethargic and I'm kind of achy. And all of a sudden I find that I have even more of a fever. I'm sweating more than I ever have been. My bones feel brittle. I don't have a sense of smell. I've lost my sense of taste. And my relatives say, oh, yes, we had this a few weeks ago. Welcome. You have dengue fever. And I'm like, what? And it turns out dengue fever is a mosquito-borne illness that you get from the Aedes aegypti mosquito. And it's like malaria, but I think it's worse. And so I have the heat, the humidity, Uncle Prita, and the yellow polo shirts. And then I have my crazy hair and head. And now I have dengue fever. And I'm telling you, like, when I was packing for this whole thing, I am, like, not thinking this is going down. Like, this was not my narrative. So, my husband is so kind and he's taking really good care of me, but he's like, hey, do you mind if I go scuba diving for the day? And I'm like, no, go for it. I'm like dying. So just, have fun. And, but before he leaves, he says, my mom's here, my Uncle Prita's here. He's a doctor, whatever, he'll take care of you. So he leaves and the room is like silent and still. And I start kind of going, wow, this is not going as I wanted it to go. And then I start going down kind of the pity party aisle. And I'm like, wait, no, I'm not going to do this. So I'm like, okay, I can't control the heat or the humidity of Thailand. I can't control Uncle Prita and the yellow polo shirts. I can't control my body with dengue fever. But by golly, I can control my hair. So I'm laying in my room, and literally it takes about a half hour for me to like make it out of bed. I get dressed, I go into the living room, and I say to my mother-in-law, please, will you take me anywhere to get rid of this? Like, I want it out. I'm done with it. And she's kind of excited because like her chia pet daughter-in-law, you know, meeting the parent or meeting the relatives for the first time. So she's like, my sister knows a gal who knows a gal, and I think I can get you in today. And so I'm like, awesome. So we, you know, walk over there. And that is where I enter the room with the 4 aunties, and I'm sitting in the cold chair, and they have the fine-tooth combs and the bottle of olive oil, and they proceed to crack it open and pour it over my head. And they start picking away 3 hours of another excruciating trauma from like the needle guy, but they're just like, you know, doing this. And they send me home after, you know, 3 hours. I literally like collapse on my bed, and I'm just like, what is going on? So Paul gets home from scuba diving, and he's coming in to check on me, and I see his face of like, you know, love and admiration. And then he's just like, whoa, like, what is going on here? You know, I've got like this whole solar system and like black holes and vortexes and just a lot going on. And he's like, how? And I'm like, I don't have answers. I'm just desperate. And this is like, I've got to do this. I've just got to get this out. So I go back a second day, another 3-hour session with the 4 aunties and the bottle of olive oil. I go back a third day, and my mother-in-law is just coming along with me every day. So the third day, they finally like crack the code, and my dreads are far enough combed out that they can cut them off and try to create some semblance of a hairdo, which I'm fine with. I'm like, I don't care. I just didn't want it shaved. So anyway, you know, as I'm thinking about this story, I am thinking about all the things that I would love to tell in this narrative, like that I'm the heroine, or that we just had these amazing moments together as a family. But that is not my narrative for this story. And so as I think back to this so many years ago, I realized that I am a part of a family that I can be weak with, I can be vulnerable with, I can be weary, I can be kind of heavy laden and pity party-ish, but I can also be vulnerable. And those are the life lessons that I am pretty convinced you don't have to re-script. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. Such a great story. Our next storyteller is Cayman Asher, and she is actually from the area, and she has told stories at the Moth in New York. She's a seasoned storyteller. So let's welcome Kamyn.
Okay. That was quite an act to follow. All right, so my family has always been a little different. For example, when they got married, neither of them wanted to take each other's names. My dad's last name was Finkelhor, so I totally understand my mom's not wanting that to be part of her lineage. So they made up a name Asher and gave it to all of us. So I'm not related to any Ashers. I was gluten-free in the early 90s before anyone knew what gluten was. And when making important life choices, we are usually drawing cards from tarot or oracle decks, of which we have about 30 littering the house. So it's really no surprise that after a terrible birth with me in a hospital, my mom decided to have my brother at home. And this was in 94, which I hear home birthing then was all the rage. But what was really different was they decided to have me present at that birth. So I was very young, and you might wonder how a 2.5-year-old can remember such an event. Let me tell you, it is very hard to forget. This is actually my first memory, even though they like to tell me that I was a very flirtatious 1.5-year-old. I wish I remembered those. So I'm gonna set what I remember of the stage. We were in Seattle at the time, and our house was, the main bedroom was on the lower level. So I remember the lower level and the booth dining area, because what 2-year-old doesn't love a booth? And they had set up the whole scene. There was a birthing tub, which I just thought was a hot tub. And my godmother, Sue, was there to keep an eye on me. And so I'm like walking down the stairs and my mom is there and she is screaming. And I'm like, what is going on? And they're pounding on her back. And I'm like, are they hurting her? Like, is that what the pounding is? And there's like screaming. And then she's like, in the tub. And I'm like, okay, everyone, get her in the tub. And then she's like, in the tub. And my dad's in the tub with her. There's like more screaming. And then everyone's naked. And I'm just like, what is going on? And I'm like, curious and also kind of terrified because I'm like 2.5. My mom is screaming and I'm like, I thought my brother was supposed to be born. Like, does that happen soon? So this goes on for a while, although I'm told was much shorter than my birth. And finally they get her on the bed and everyone's like, okay, this is it. This is what's gonna happen. So she's on the bed. And I don't know how this happens, but I get perfectly positioned between her legs. And no one thinks this is weird. I'm just standing there. The pushing is happening. They're up there like coaching her, and I'm just like, oh, this is interesting. And all of a sudden, I start seeing my brother, and he is just coming right at me. And I'm like, my brother, and the midwife's like, oh, I have to be there. And she pushes me out of the way. My godmother catches me. I'm so excited. I pee all over my godmother. My brother comes out. They give him to my mom. And they're like, Cayman, do you want to cut the cord? And I'm like, yeah. And at this point, the fear has subsided because there's like a new human. And I get to cut the cord. And I, go up to the bed. And they hand me these very, large, heavy scissors. And we cut the cord. And, this is where I wish I could leave it, as this was the happy ending. I did not realize the impact that this had on me until a few years later when I asked my mom where babies come from. And she says, you wish for them. Now this sounds unassuming and a very good answer. But I was like, I wished for babies. Oh my God. And I believe in wishes. I believe in the tooth fairy, like wishes come true. So I got home and I was like, I unwish all the babies. I unwish all the babies. I was very terrified. No babies came, thankfully. And as I got older, I realized that's not how babies, are made. But I have never been able to shake this just no baby fever. I like the idea of pregnancy, the idea of having something inside me, of giving birth is still very terrifying. I do know that if I were to ever give birth, I'd be on this side of the birthing process, which is very, thankful. But two really important things came out of that day. One, the best birth control is a 2.5-year-old witnessing birth. The second is that I forever get the honor of being the first person to see and welcome my baby brother into this world. And for that, I'm always grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Kamyn. Our next storyteller is Paul Coates. He's the loving husband that left his wife when she was dying to go scuba diving or whatever.
I'm pretty sure that's not the bio I wrote. Oh, well, tough to follow Kristen and Kamyn, but thank you so much. Well, I'm 8 years old. I am standing in front of the mirror. I've just combed my hair, and I am armed and ready with scissors in my hand. Now, I've just combed my hair while it's wet because I wanted it to be nice and flat and straight, like all the other kids in my school who had nice, flat, non-messy hair. The hair happens to also be blonde and brown, not black like mine. In fact, I'm the only kid with black hair in my school, where I grew up in the suburbs of Atlanta, Georgia. I know that my hair won't be flat for very long. In fact, it's going to explode with curls which will be another way in which I stand out and am looking different than the rest of my classmates. I have brown skin. That's not too common in the suburbs of Atlanta, Georgia. And I don't really actually like being that different. You know, my curls are going to stick out, and they just are another example of the way that I stick out and often get made fun of and things like that. So it dawns on me that, you know, to be this different in a town like that requires a bit of courage, maybe some self-confidence. I do not have those things as an 8-year-old at the time. And so my coping mechanism is instead to find out ways to blend in, like to just be a wallflower is the best way to go, and you can get through life much better. So there I am standing in front of this mirror, and as my hair is drying, I'm ready for these curls to start popping out. And I think, all right, what I'm going to do then is just sort of play a game of whack-a-mole, like that carnival game when the bull sticks his head up and you smash him with a hammer. I'm wise enough at least to know that I shouldn't use a mallet, but I am sitting there with my scissors, and as my hair dries and my curls start popping out, I just reach up there and cut that puppy right off, right at the scalp. And this goes on for a while until I've cut a lot of my hair. And I'm thinking, yeah, man, that's victory right there. Like, I don't have curls. You see my hair. I mean, it's all cut out. And I think I've won the game until, of course, my mom sees my hair and she says, it looks like somebody named Bubba just cut your hair with a weed whacker. I mean, it does not look good at all. But such was my dedication to this concept of I got to do something to try to fit in better. I can't change the color of my hair. I can't change the color of my skin. But like Kristen talked about with her hair, I can do something about this mess that's on my head. So fortunately, as I grew up, I started to gain a bit of courage and started to learn a bit more about having self-confidence. And that took me well into my young adulthood and early adulthood years. Part of me still held on to that whole childhood lesson about wanting to just sort of blend in and get through life that way. But fortunately, Kristen and I, we got married. We were living up here in beautiful New Hampshire. Life's going on pretty well. About a year into our marriage, I don't know if it was before or after we did that Thailand trip. It's funny how much our stories resemble the whole hair thing going on. But about a year into our marriage, we got an invitation to go to a wedding in Arizona. Now, this wedding invitation was from really close friends of mine who lived in Atlanta. And they're going to get married in Sedona and also in part of the Grand Canyon. They're going to do it in July. I don't know the wisdom behind July in the middle of Arizona, but that's where it's going to happen. And I'm really excited about this wedding because they're going to get to meet my new wife, Kristen. And it's a bunch of friends that I'm super excited to see. These are not hillbilly friends. These are friends who are like designers and photographers and filmmakers. A bunch of them are from Europe. I mean, these are really fun friends to have around. And so we're going to go to this wedding. But I'm the Lebanon Recreation Coordinator. Summer is like a zoo in my life. And so to pick up and go to Arizona in July for this wedding is not like something that I do well with planning. Kristen does our planning. I don't do any planning and packing ahead of time. So it's the night before our trip, and I'm realizing, oh my goodness, I don't have a swimsuit that fits me to go on this trip. And a large part of what we're going to do is jumping in and out of the river and cooling off. It's going to be 178 degrees in Arizona, so I got to be able to get in the water. So I said, babe, can you please go to the store and just get me a swimsuit? And I want to blend in. So I just want a regular, like solid color swimsuit. Maybe there can be a little design down the side or something like that. That's fine. Just make sure it's going to fit me. And, I'm going to go do my work thing, and then we're going to jump on an airplane. So she's great. She goes and she buys a swimsuit. I get done with work. We're about to go to the airport. I see the swimsuit and I'm like, perfect. It's green, plain green. And it's got this little pattern down the side. I try them on. They fit. Thumbs up all around. I snip the tags, throw it in my bag. We jet out of here. Many, many, many hours later, we pulled into Sedona and it's super hot, just like you'd imagine. And to our relief, we find that all of our friends are out at the river and they're like splashing around and they're cooling off. And we're like, awesome, that's what we're doing. Put on the swimsuit, my brand new swim trunks, they fit. And we head over to the river. Now, when you think river, don't picture the Connecticut River with all this great water and, swimming and all that kind of stuff. Think more like the White River right now, where it's, there's some swimming holes and there are places you can get in and it's nice, but you can also get out and sort of rock hop down to the next little swimming hole. So we're walking around. I see my buddy Steven from Atlanta. I haven't seen him in years. So we're like, hey, how's it going? Yeah. And jumping in the water and cooling off. And I get out of the water and I start rock hopping to the next spot. And my buddy Steven goes, dude, where'd you get those shorts? And I'm thinking, what do you mean, Steven? They're just shorts. Like, don't draw attention to me, man. I don't like this attention thing going on. He goes, no, dude, like, where'd you get those shorts? And now all these other great friends of mine are like looking around like, yeah, where'd you get those shorts? And I look down at my shorts and I realize they're like camo design shorts, like, camo. I hate camo. I'm not a hunter. I don't like any of that camo stuff. And I looked at Kristen and I said, babe, why'd you get me camo shorts? And she's like, I didn't. I don't know what you're talking about, but we were looking at my shorts and they're like decked out in camo. I thought, what's going on here? And my buddy Steven, he goes, dude, those aren't camo shorts. Those are naked lady shorts. And I said, what? And sure enough, we're looking at my shorts. And what happens is when these shorts get wet, they change. And these naked lady silhouettes, we're talking the lady who's on the back of the mud flaps on the semi-trucks, who's going like this. Her little silhouette, she's everywhere. She's over the front, she's over the back. And I'm thinking, I have no idea what's going on. But all these people are laughing with me this time. And I thought, all right, this is the first time I've ever put on these shorts. If I had known that this was going to happen, I never would have put them on. But now that I have, and I see that my friends will laugh with me instead of at me, I'm like, oh, I'm wearing these again. And I did. I wore them a whole bunch more times, including the day I got baptized in my church with my pastor in front of the whole congregation. That's a different story, though. Thank you.
I love that story. Anyway, we're going to do a little intermission. And during intermission, I want to see some people put in stories. We're going to have a little fishbowl or something out there. Put your name in to come tell a first-time story that you have. As you can see, it's just fun, easy. Do it. We want to see some stories. All right. See you in about 15 minutes.
It was a great first half. For those of you who have been here before, you are ready for the next part of our program, which for me is the most fun, is when we have asked people who are in the audience to just put a pitch in the basket. And maybe they've been home practicing, or maybe they just watched the first half and were saying, well, I have a story I could tell. So sometimes we don't get very many, but tonight we actually got several. So I think we're going to see if we can have 2 storytellers from the audience. So your chances just went up if you put your name in the hat. And if you go on beyond, I don't know how many minutes, we're going to ring a bell. So one of the things about, let me just say a little bit about our process, which when people pitch stories to us, to the committee, the pitches are a synopsis, not a written version, because the stories are not written and read. They're told live and true, or as true as we can figure out. And we ask people who we choose to select, and we select based on topic and where people are from and whether they've told before. And we have a rehearsal. And it's very simple, but we tell for each other, and then there's some questions asked, or some feedback given, and so forth. So that has seemed to really work well. I feel like every time I've been at a rehearsal and people get some conversation and then come back to tell, they always add some great pieces and change what they've done. But the folks whose names are in the basket, these are coming up cold, so we really want to be a warm, receptive audience for them. So I'm going to ask, would you mind picking up a name? Love it. Is your own in there? No, I wish. You wish? Well, but you get it next time. Reckless.
Oh,
Ah.
she's reckless.
Okay. Okay. I was run over by a semi-truck full of Mattel toys in an ice storm, and I lived. And I now study ice as a career. John Wetherell? Is that a real name? Real name or a John?
So, hello, everybody. All right. So, and I mentioned that, and that is a true story, but I don't think that's actually the story for tonight, for the first time, because that was the first time that happened. So as I was walking back, and I mentioned somebody a first time. So so let's see. So. It's sort of related. So I do study ice as a career, but mostly I study it on a computer, and I make little predictions of ice and things, and the climate and things in the Arctic. So I did that for a career, and I still do to some degree. But the first time, so when I came to this area and I got my job doing that job in Hanover, and they said, well, you haven't been to the Arctic. So the first time, they said, time to take you to the Arctic. So I went with my colleagues, and it was, take John to the Arctic Day. And so they took me up to northern Alaska, what was called Barrow, Alaska, Point Barrow, the northernmost point in the continental United States. It sticks out on the Arctic Ocean. And it was summer, so the sun's up, going around all the time, it's all around 32 degrees. So this is the first time I was up there. And they said, take out on the ice. So we walk out, you walk out from the land, and then there's the ice-covered Arctic Ocean. So you walk out on it and stuff. And we were measuring the ice and the reflectivity of the ice and the snow and all sorts of things like that and stuff. And so my first time was going out there, seeing what it's like. The thing that I've been modeling on my computer for years in my career is, oh, this is what it's looked like and stuff. It's not at all like what I had. So, but of course they said, okay, we're going to go out there, do these things and so forth. And they said, okay, well, you're new, so they hand me the gun. It's like, so you have to have the shotgun to carry. Somebody has to carry the shotgun because there are polar bears around there and stuff. And it's like, well, this is my first time. I do not carry a gun. So they said, okay, well, you're fine. But said, here's this poster, and it shows a picture of a polar bear, and it shows an X over where you do not want to shoot the polar bear is the head, because it just makes them mad. And it's like, don't do that. So I said, okay, well, all right, so I'll carry the gun. So I walk out there with a student and other things. And then, so we got out there, and on the day we were out there, I was out there, this time I was out there alone with a grad student from somewhere. And we were out there, and the people in charge and the senior people, they were flying around on an airplane taking pictures and stuff like that. So I was down there by myself and stuff. And so they're out there at the gun and measurements and stuff. And then the fog rolls in. And the fog rolls in, and it's like, we're about a mile offshore, maybe not even that. But the fog goes in, and you realize you can't see, everything's just gray. You don't know which way you're facing and stuff like that. And so you could be anywhere. It's like, and then the radio, somebody pipes in. There are native guides that are out there, and they say, well, there is a polar bear that's been spotted at the shore. and it's like, well, if he's out there, we can't see him. And he's well, he's down at the dump, and they're moving that way or something. I said, okay, well, it's like, well, if we'll listen. If we see them coming our way, we'll do something. I don't know what. We'll make it back, hopefully we'll make it back to the shore, hopefully not run into the polar bear. So anyway, so we see the airplane flying around above us. I said, well, they're fine and stuff like that. So we make our measurements, we pack the equipment, and we get back to shore, and stuff like that. And so I guess the moral of the story is there's a first time for everything. I get to carry a gun out in the Arctic, not shoot a polar bear. I saw a polar bear eventually out there, and many other things, but luckily, I think the safety first is always the case. So I'll leave that.
Thank you so much for volunteering, even though you thought it was for next time. So I assume you have a reckless story that you might want to tell next time, and we hope you'll submit it. So I'm going to ask my friend Sally, do you have a no idea what the story's about, but Celeste. We're very, oh God, Celeste said.
Hi, everybody. This is so fun. So it's 1979. I'm one of 7. I have 2 older brothers. I am not allowed to date boys older than I am. I've graduated from college. I'm working. And a man asked me out for a date. So it's my first date with him. And we have a glass of wine on a harbor on Cape Cod. And we had a good time. He's surprised, and I was surprised he asked me out again because I had a Massachusetts accent, and I kept talking about Bob, and Bob was Barbara, my roommate. When he finally figured it out, he decided, okay, this is going better than, he decided we had a good time, so he's like, do you want to go out for a cup of coffee now? So the title of my little story is Two Loves and first date, first coffee, 2 loves. So he said, do you want to go out for a coffee now? And I had never had coffee, ever. I'm how old? 21 years old. So we go to the Hearth and Kettle on, I think it was Route, whatever that route is. And as we go to sit down, it's, I don't know what time at night, and the waitress goes to seat us, and he goes, oh, just 2 coffees. So I said, oh my gosh, I'm going to drink coffee here because this is a man and I like him, he likes me. So I have my coffee, I pour milk in it, sugars, it's like, drink it. I come home, my 2 roommates are like, what is going on? And I'm like, so I like him, but I like him more than they can probably stand to listen to. So another week goes by, he asked me out to go for dinner. So we have dinner, and it's a man paying for your meal. It was very, very nice versus, when you're in college, like, what kind of Italian ice do you want? You pay for yourself, right? Anyway, I was like, this is so nice. So we have dinner, and then the waitress comes over and says, would you like coffee? Well, yeah, we'll have at least 2 coffees. Would you like dessert? I'm like, oh, no, here goes again. So I put it go home, and my roommates are like, what the heck's going on? I'm like, I don't know. I never had coffee, and I don't want to tell them that I don't drink coffee because So anyway, I moved to Colorado for 2 years. We stayed in touch. Whenever he visited, I drank coffee, and I'm a nurse. Well, I just retired, but as a nurse, I worked nights, not knowing in Colorado the only jobs were at night, so I learned to drink coffee. But you can ask my daughter, like, any time that she visits, and I'm like, hyper, has Mom had coffee? But anyway, I ended up marrying this man, and we go to Lucky's sometimes. I was there yesterday, and so my 2 loves now are coffee and my man.
Thank you. So great. I also say Bob because I'm also from Massachusetts. So see how fun it is? I mean, unrehearsed, just true stories from your life. So please think about for next time. Yeah. Oh, we have to do the raffle. Oh, the raffle. Okay. The raffle. So the first raffle, I'll pick myself. The first raffle is for 2 tickets to the Mudroom. I can't read the number or the name. It's either says Ken Ryan or, oh, Ken Ryan. So, Ken Ryan. And 2 tickets to the Mudroom, Sandy.
No, that's a family member.
I mean, no, 2 more tickets to the Mudroom. Sandy?
What number? This is Sandy.
Oh, the number. I thought you meant the phone number. People are writing the phone number. Last 3 numbers, 317. That's you, Sandy. 317? You two can work it out. Cheryl needs that. Cheryl needs that. And a family membership. I see what you mean by the numbers. I'm all over the place. And the family membership to AVA is Sally Page. Okay. Sally Page.
I'll take this.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the second part of our planned program. Our next storyteller is Warren Thayer. And Warren is going to look to see if anybody has suspenders on, because he really hates people. Those look a little, no. He hates anybody who wears suspenders unless they're actually skiing or farming. Warren.
Thank you. I got to just add one thing to this after hearing the story about the coffee. My dad, when he was just married to my mother, she made him breakfast the first day they were married, and she burned the toast badly. I mean, black as could be. And my father, being who he was, man of few words too, she said, "Oh, is it all right with you?" And he said, "Well, I like it that way." So in fact, for the next 30 years, he got burned toast every morning. Anyway, I grew up on a farm in the 1950s, about 100 miles from here, kind of a backwater little town. I delivered milk with my dad door to door in glass bottles, thank you. And it was not a bad place to be. One thing I will say, it was backwater. We were not exposed to pretty much anything besides people who were about as poor as we were, and there were a lot of us, and of all the same ethnic group, just what it was. And, I got to add one thing about the cows. And my dad once named a cow Ruth. And that was fine until, well, Ruth was my mother. And she was really, really unamused. So the next day, Ruth became Doris. Anyway, so it was kind of a backwater town, and I was not used to anybody who had sophistication or, owned a Corvette or whatever it was. It was a different time, 1950s. So this went on pretty well. We took on our parents' prejudices, whatever they were. I was told to never, ever be friends with people who ate garlic. I don't know why, but that was it. That was it. So this was okay. I didn't have any problem with people with money that was really coming out their pockets. I didn't have any problem with people of different ethnic groups, whatever. It was just a small town, and everybody kind of got along, and we didn't dwell on this stuff. So, except the parents did, but we kind of picked it up by osmosis, but it wasn't bad. Got to high school, and then the kids were, it was a regional high school. Some of the kids were pretty well off. One girl, Debbie, who I had a big crush on, took winter skiing in the Alps every year. And that was like, whoa. So I knew I wouldn't have a chance with her. And of course, I never really went after her much, but it was a different time. And then I went off to college, and it was somewhat like high school on steroids, because there, Boston University, 1966, and it was a whole different world where everybody drove a Mercedes or a Corvette or whatever, and everybody seemed to have money for European vacations all the time. And I was still a farm kid, and it was difficult. It was difficult. And this continued on into my career. As my career began, I was, let's just say that if I ever sensed even a whiff of condescension directed my way, because I, quote, didn't fit in, which they could smell from 100 yards, I swear. He's not one of us. He's a country kid, and oh my God. Well, anyway, it was a time that I really didn't care for, and college was, my best friends became people similar to me because they were all in Army ROTC like I was. It just seemed like the thing to do. And we were shunned and ridiculed. And frankly, my sophomore year, I dropped out of ROTC for a couple reasons. One, my brother's in Vietnam, not having a good time, and he was telling me things that would curl your hair, and he did not believe in the war anymore. So I dropped out for that reason, and also because I was 19, and all girls hated us in ROTC. So I dropped out of that. And things got a little better when I started my career. Although, again, if anybody whiffed condescension my way, I would become hostile, combative, and just difficult to be around. And this would often be authority figures. I had that in spades. Really, if you were a boss and you held condescension for anything of people of this, and of course, I felt that way about the farm help when I was a kid, that if anybody ever badmouthed them or made fun of them, I was fighting words because they were my best friends as a child growing up. So my career goes along, and I wind up, of all places, despite all my pushback, I wind up in New York City. I've been a journalist all my life, and here I am now in Fairchild Publications in East Village. But I recall going to my very first, it's just one of several firsts actually, my very first party at a house in a mansion, a lavish mansion in Rye, New York. And that's where we were living, believe it or not. But we did okay, but it was still hanging by the fingernails. And I recall going up to the bar, I'm waiting for my drink at the stand-up bar, and there's a woman there beside me. I say, "Hey, what do you do?" And she put her glass down, looked at me, and said, "My husband is at Goldman Sachs." And she walked away. Whoa, okay. But there were good things, too. There were good things. And there were things got better. Accidentally, I made good friends with a fellow who was in a different group, in that I belonged to a charity called Samaritan Counseling Center. We did counseling free pro bono for people who couldn't afford counseling. And it was based in somewhere, but we had a New York City branch. We had all over the place. And here I am at the first meeting. I'm not one of the, well, I've been on the board for several months, but one of our monthly morning meetings, this guy comes in. And we're both early, and we got 20 minutes to just chat. So we chatted, and we got along great. I thought, boy, this guy is tall, he's fit, he's got a good tan, and he's just regular as can be. I figured, must be a carpenter. Maybe I'll get him to do some work in the back of the house here, that we got some problems. And we get talking, and then the meeting starts, and halfway through the meeting, the chairwoman asks, "Oh, we're going next month to give an award to Barbara Bush in Phoenix. Did anybody here go?" And my new friend, Scott Pierce, says, "Oh, I'll go." I'm like, whoa, carpenters go, whoa, that's quite a step. Anyway, the meeting ends and everybody leaves, and I asked the chairwoman, I says, "What's the story with Scott?" And she says, "You don't know?" I said, "No." She says, "Well, it's his sister." And I'm like, wow. And that was Scott. So he and I became friends. He was my first fabulously wealthy friend. Also the president of E.F. Hutton at the time. And I had no idea. And this kind of begins to get into what I'm saying is that we are all, despite our differences, all so alike. And we really have to shed some feelings that I had a chip on my shoulder about wealthy people with sophistication for probably about 50 years, and I'm probably getting over it now. I'm not there yet, but I'm sort of there, And I still sort of a D's, them, and goes guys, from the farm. And at least my clothes don't smell of common manure anymore like they used to, so I can get by in some places. But anyway, I wind up in New York City. I'm working in the East Village at Fairchild Publications, and I actually wind up with a secretary, which to me was kind of embarrassing. I mean, I couldn't tell my friends, "Oh, yeah, I'm in New York City and I have a secretary, you know. But it was different. Wally was her name. Actually, her name was Waleska Quinones. And Waleska Quinones lived in the South Bronx in the area now known well as Fort Apache. And she was a joy, sweet and gentle, although she carried a hat pin. She showed me that. And I know you never wanted to mess with Wally. How a woman from Puerto Rico and living in the South Bronx could wind up here doing this is kind of beyond me. But we became, actually over the time she worked for me, a couple of years, really good friends. And one time she came in and said, I'm getting married. I said, great. And it was one of her guys who'd come to visit her at lunchtime. It was Gabriel Camacho, who later boxed for the Marines. And often her brothers came. When her brothers first came to visit me at the office, visit her, not me, visit her in the office, they show up and I'm still half a foot in Massachusetts farm, New Hampshire farmland, and these guys walk in with the do-rag over their head, and they got tattoos up and down the arm, and I'm like, oh, shit. And Wally sees them and jumps up, hey, and runs over, and they all pass her on, hugs, it's her brothers, and this is great. And it took us a while, but they came often to visit, so we became pals. And the time came for the wedding, and we were now really friendly and trusting and had fun together. And it was the first time for me to ever have that with a group of guys from the South Bronx, all from Puerto Rico, but the South Bronx. And I loved that. I cherished that. So when Wally had the wedding, she invited me to come. I said, of course. The wedding turned out to be in Brownsville, New York, part of Brooklyn, which has actually got the highest crime and poverty rate anywhere in New York City. Now, I was not totally away from all that because I spent years working in soup kitchens and homeless shelters in the city as my charity work. I just did that for quite a while when I lived in Brooklyn and Manhattan. And so there we are, and they said, well, come to the wedding, and I'm a little scared to go to Brownsville, but I got someone in the office that said, oh, I'm going, well, you come with me. I said, great. So we went. I can't remember the wedding much. I can't remember the reception much. But I do know that they were all unhappy because Wally's parents insisted, they were devout Baptist, and insisted there would be no liquor, no wine, no nothing anywhere. And Wally would sit and say, I can't believe this. Let's toast the bride and groom with Welch's grape juice. And she'd laugh, but it was bitter laugh. So I decided, okay, I'm going to surprise them all. I arrived in my suit, everybody's in a suit, in my suit, and a camera to take some pictures they asked me to, and a big empty camera bag, which is actually filled now with shot bottles of rum. And I didn't say boo to anybody. And the waitress comes over to our table and says, what do you want to drink? And one of her brothers, Angelo, says, I'll have a rum and Coke. And the waitress just glares at him. He says, all right, I'll have a Coke. And those Cokes all around. So they were all served, and we're sitting there and looking a little bored, and there he picks up his drink like it's poison and puts it down. He's going to say, give me the drink. What for? Give me the drink. I just want the drink. I can do magic with drinks. All right. He gives me the drink across the table, and I take it, bring it under the table, take out a bottle, pour it in. He's now got a rum and Coke. And I pass it off to him, and he's like, what'd you do? I says, find out. Take a drink. Whoa, man, this is incredible. I love this, you know. So everybody wanted the same thing. So I'm under the table for about an hour being bartender to all these guys. And after about an hour, it was the rum was gone, but we were all, frankly, at that table pretty well soused. And then one of the brothers turns to me and says, hey, Warren, want to go outside and score some dope? I'm like, God, I'm in Brownsville. And this is like a dangerous place for anybody. I don't care what you are. This is a dangerous place to be. But I said, sure, why not? Because when else could I have a chance to do this? It was incredible. So we went out, walking in the street. We got the burned out buildings. You got the cars up on blocks. You got smashed windows. You got kids sitting on stoops. And I'm like, okay, I'm with these guys, you know, and I'll be all right, I hope. So we go about a block and we find this old lady who looks sort of like Mother Teresa. And she's sitting on a stoop. And she's got a black dress on and she's kind of looking down. And so Angela goes over and says, hey, in Spanish, you know, where can we buy some marijuana? That's all we really wanted was marijuana. And the lady looks up, looks at me, and starts pointing, and I can't hear it because it's too soft. Her voice is soft, but they're all speaking in Spanish back and forth. He says, well, this guy here, his stuff is expensive, and he's got a temper. Now, that one over there, he sells mostly just cocaine, but he's, I think he might be a narc, so stay away from him. Now, there's somebody in the next block who wears a Pittsburgh Steelers shirt, it's black, and he's got a death tattoo on his forearm, and he's always there. Just go down one block, you'll see him. It's across the street. Whoa. And Angela says, thank you. And he rubs the side of her face. And we all walk off another block. And we find the guy, just like she said we would. And there's a quick talk, and then the guy with the tattoo and, you know, everything else about him, he says, looks at me and kind of points, like, pig. No, he's cool. We know he's all right. And it was dubious going on for a while. But then finally they said, okay, you know, and I offered to pay. And they said, no, you don't pay. I guess maybe they thought I was a narc still, maybe, I don't know. But I couldn't be the one to pay, so fine. We got 4 joints passed to us, and we walked off, lit up about a half block away, and we were already, frankly, in the bag. And adding this on top, it was really stupid, but it was fun. I got to say, it was fun. And we're walking along, and I noticed one thing that surprised me. Here's 4 tough-looking Puerto Rican guys in suits, and this Winnie the Pooh walking around his suit. And nobody bothered us. In fact, people were sort of afraid of us. There was this guy in a pork pie hat, took a look at us and like went up and crossed the street real fast. I'm like, wow. But we had a grand time. I mean, we walked for probably half an hour. We were all smoked out. It was fun. We're boisterous and yelling and being stupid. And we head back to the reception. And there at the reception, Wally's mother is saying, where were you, Roette? Nobody could stop giggling, you know? We're all laughing, and so we all sat down again. And the coolest thing about this story was that nothing untoward happened to anybody, not even the whiff of any danger, no trouble. Everything was fine, as it's often been when I've been in neighborhoods like that since. But it was my first experience, really, of going into the inner city and buying something, which I actually never did that again. But I did inhale some in the years past, but I'm 74 years old. What do you want? You know? So we had a chance to get to know each other and trust each other, and best of all, get really nice and high together.
Thanks, Warren. Our last storyteller is Sally Bacon, who is a longtime dedicated Mudroom committee person. And Sally does a lot of things in her life. She makes beautiful jewelry. She has a great store in White River Junction. She's a painter, and she's a really great storyteller.
Okay, I don't know why I tell such embarrassing stories to you guys. Honestly, it's amazing to me. It's 1980, and my husband was offered a job as a partner in an architectural firm in Phoenix. So we left the Upper Valley with our 2 young boys, and we head to Phoenix. And being a mom for me was it. All I ever wanted to be was a mom, and I was like so into my boys. And I sort of, wasn't taking care of myself. I still had my pregnancy weight on, probably like 50 pounds. I was a chunky monkey. And Bob, he's in this firm where they're doing all this really exciting work, and he'd come home and he'd be telling me about all the exciting things they're doing. And all of a sudden, I realized that Sally lost her groove. You know what I mean? It was like I was looking bad, I was feeling bad, and I just thought I needed to pull myself together. And what really clinched it was I went bathing suit shopping and took my 5-year-old son with me, and I look in the mirror and I start crying, and he's looking at me, and I said, "You know what? I was a fox before I married your father." And he looks at me and his eyes get really big and he goes, "A fox in the forest?" And I said, "Yes, a fox in the forest." That was me, so I was crying. And then Bob comes home and he tells me that this couple that we knew, they were artists and they had bought this building and they were going to remodel it and they were going to have this big party. Now we hung around with a pretty cool crowd. They were designers and architects and artists, and everybody was, and it was the 80s, and everybody was really partying. And so I decide, like a lot of us do, you're going to lose weight for that wedding, or you're going to lose weight for that, reunion or something. I'm going to lose weight for this party. So this is going to take them about 2-3 months to remodel, give me time to get in shape. I'm going to look hot. So I won't go so far as I went to a gym because I am not a workout kind of person. But I was walking. We lived in, Phoenix, and so I could walk during the morning. I could walk at night. I started dieting. I started losing weight. I'll be honest with you. I was looking hot. So a couple months go by. I lose the weight, and I am rocking it. And I am going to strut my stuff at this party. And I knew I was going to meet associates of my husband's that I didn't know, and I was going to meet people I did know. And so I'm going to buy a new dress, and I'm going to look good. So I go out and I buy this skin-tight velvet short dress, long sleeve. And I have my big 80s hair. Now, my hair was curly then. I used to perm it. It was dark. I have this big 80s hair. I have these chandelier earrings. And I have on these shoes that I swear to God were about this big. And they were wooden. They aren't like spiked heels. They're like these wild 80s shoes. And I look in the mirror and I'm like, Sally Bacon. Wow. Right? So we're going to go to this party and it's going to be great. So I get all ready. Bob and I go. We get into this party, and it does not disappoint. Architecturally, it was gorgeous. There was great wine, great food. I'm hungry. I have just dieted for, I'm a little hungry. So I'm walking around, and I'm meeting people and everything, and, people are looking at me. I'm looking good. Bob told me I look great. And I decide I'm going to get something to eat. So I'm at the table eating, and all of a sudden I look up, and everybody's kind of looking at me. Now, when you're young, you think it's all about you, right? Everybody's, but everybody was looking at me. And I'm like, okay, I look good, but they're kind of smirking. They're kind of like whispering, and I'm like, and I'm eating, and my friend comes rushing over to me. She goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm eating." She goes, "Sally, you're eating the already eaten artichokes." And I go, "What?" Okay. In my defense, I had never seen a artichoke before like that. I'd only seen them in, I wasn't always this sophisticated. So, next to the artichoke that you peeled the, thing off of, the petal, there was a platter. And the platter had all these artichokes, and they were fanned out. I'm not kidding you. Leave it to designers to fan out their already eaten food. So I saw the dip there, and I'm picking up the artichoke, and I'm doing this, dipping it, and I'm throwing it in the can. And she tells me those are already eaten. And I look up at everybody, right, and I go like that, and I throw it down, and I grab her, and I say, "Let's find Bob." And now I'm laughing, though. I'm laughing so hard, because who would do that, right? And I'm trying to find my husband, and there must be 100 people there, right? I find my husband, I go, "We gotta go, come on, we gotta go." He goes, "What's wrong?" I said, "No, we gotta go." So we get in the car, and I go, "Bob, I said, I was eating the already eaten artichokes. And he looks at me and he goes, what? And I said, you know that platter? He goes, you were eating that? I said, did you eat any artichokes? And he said, I did. And I said, did you like them? I said, I didn't like them. He said, they're better if they haven't been eaten.
Good one. Thank you all for coming out tonight. Our next mudroom will be in December. I have to look at this. December 8th. We usually have it on the second Thursday every 3 months, so it'll be December 8th. And the theme is reckless.
And encourage them to tell a story.
Yes, so please think about, and you can look on the website, and the AVA website, for how to pitch your story. We look for a short synopsis of, I think you have an idea, don't you? I can tell. There's a few people who were really enthused. So please pitch stories. In the history of the mudroom here, we have had many, many people pitch. And COVID sort of interrupted things because we had to stop, and now we're back. And I don't know where we'll be exactly in December, hopefully inside and safe. But we'd love to have your pitches, and you'll get support, and then you stand up in front of a warm, enthusiastic audience who loves to hear what you have to say. So thank you for coming.